All right, dude, it's great to have you back on the show. I'm super excited to talk about the new album Stones, and welcome back, Manafest.
Yeah, dude, it's been a while, man. Good to chat with you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, talking about it's been a while, it's not just been a while since we've talked, but, it's been a minute since you've released not only a record in general, but a rock record. So what brought about kind of not only the kind of shift back to hip-hop, but also maybe the slightly longer period of time between records?
Yeah, well, I was in a funny place with the moment, a lot of change, a lot of things going on. And so that record was kind of just a bit of a weird hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure you hear me. And then Reborn, that one was kind of like just, I've always wanted to just do an all hip-hop record.
Right.
And but then, it's funny. I'll never forget when I focused and said, I want to do just a rock record. Now, the first time I did that was with The Chase. And that was my most critically acclaimed record. And it's the power of focus is an amazing thing. And I feel like I've really gone back to what fans, have always loved me for. And it's been awesome, man, because you don't always get a standing ovation, whether digitally or physically when you release music, And I feel like I'm getting one this time. And it feels great to be for people to love the art and the music you create.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what do you attribute the difference between fans' reactions between the rock and the rap? I mean, it's kind of a weird place for that to be the case, at least to me in the moment, because, it feels like hip-hop has kind of taken over, like music sales and rock sales overall have been kind of down, but it works better for you. Is there anything you attribute that to? Well,
yeah, just because hip hop is more popular than rock doesn't mean necessarily if I do a hip hop record or if anyone does, then, it's going to, necessarily sell or do better.
Right.
I just think this is a better record. I think I worked with, some producers that really challenged me and some great songwriters too that, collaborated with me and just put together a better record, and I just think just the personality that I put in the songs and the writing and just the production as well is just a level up, I think.
Okay.
Definitely the price was a level up.
Right. It's a whole lot cheaper to just have, some drum machines and something to make some loops with and whatnot. I know it's more complicated than that, but still the amount of people that have to be involved in a hip hop record can be vastly lower. So I totally get it.
Yeah, it's a different thing for sure.
Yeah, cool. Now you'd mentioned that you were able to do some fun collaborations with some other artists on this new record, Stones. Let us in on who some of those people are.
Yeah, well, me and Trevor did Firestarter together, and actually Joe Ricard did a little bit of programming on guitars from In Flames.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adam Messenger, who's done anywhere from Bieber to Chris Brown to Shakira, and a bunch of other pop acts. He did Stones with me on my birthday, so that was rad.
Nice.
And then I also got to work with Howard Benson's guys, these two writers, Lenny and Sean, and we really hit it off with those guys. They did 2 tracks, Coming Back and When the Truth Comes Out. And then, of course, House of Cards, the latest single. That was just with me and my buddy Seth Mosley from Nashville. So definitely had some good friends, I like to call, and writers, producers on this record. So it was a lot of fun making it.
Nice. It's funny that you should mention Seth. I interviewed him back when he was actually in a band back in the day, and it's so funny to think of him as being such a big deal now.
Oh, Me in Motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely in a better place now.
Yeah, for sure. But it's sad though, because I really liked Me in Motion, so it's like I'm happy for him, and I think he's working with some great people like you and others and whatnot that I think definitely would be vastly different without him. But at the same time, I'm like I kind of miss Me in Motion.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, craziness. Well, so how did you feel like? How did you feel like those collaborations brought something different out of you? I mean, what do you think is the reason behind that? Is it just the chemistry, or what do you think leads up to that?
Definitely that. I feel like on some of the songs, I became like a new songwriter and just approaching songwriting a little differently than I ever had. And after, I've written hundreds of songs, and I seriously think it's like I learned something so new that I'd never known before. And it definitely was like a notch up on the way I approached songwriting, and I loved it. It was great. And I just think I'm going to be a different songwriter from here on out,
Yeah, I got you, man. And it's interesting how different people can bring that out of us in a way that you just don't think about. We have some friends that my wife and I hang out with. And it's funny because every time we get through with a conversation with him, like I always just kind of walk away feeling like anything is possible. And I feel like there's like this new angle to everything. They're like, sure, we could do that. Why couldn't we do that? Why did we ever think we couldn't do that?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. They really stretched me and tried to just get the best song possible, not just, some people just kind of bleed out whatever comes out and they don't edit, and any, writer, songwriter, blog writer, whatever, book writer knows that the power is in the editing and going over it and trying to make it stronger after the first idea.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, we've already kind of referenced it once, but of course, the first single, House of Cards, let's talk about that song itself. I mean, not only just kind of what went into the kind of the creative process, but kind of maybe some of the meaning behind it and maybe your favorite thing about it.
Yeah, the chorus means a lot to me. The idea of just House of Cards, things falling apart that you've worked on, and you just feel like you keep self-sabotaging yourself. But at the same time, like you're frustrated with the way things are, and you're saying like, I don't want to live like this, but I refuse to call it quits. Even though it hasn't changed yet, I'm going to hold on until it changes. And and normally that starts with us sometimes, and looking inward, and then what we can change about ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's interesting because to me, songs like that, I mean, even though I know that this song was written well before this happened, I mean, kind of take on a bit of a new meaning with experiences like losing somebody like Chester from Linkin Park. It's like that idea of, in as much as, I don't want to say that like he was being weak or throwing in the towel or whatever, but there is some element of giving up that can come with suicide. And it's hard sometimes, but you do have to keep on pushing through even when it doesn't feel like there's anything to get to in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's wild because those guys, really inspired me and stuff. And early the music did for sure. And, there's just so many people going through stuff that you don't even realize. Like I've had people come up to me at shows saying your songs saved me. And I really don't take that lightly because you don't know what someone is actually going through. And it's an honor to be able to write songs that can, give people hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a truly unique place to be in, just to be kind of a vehicle for hope for people, even though, like you said, I mean, it's not something that you necessarily think about until that fan comes up to you and says, hey, this song means this to me. And it's funny because I often will talk to artists who it seems like they don't even necessarily mean it in that way, but it takes on, as art sometimes does, a new meaning depending on the person who's ingesting that art, and it can really mean something bigger than ever even intended.
Oh, for sure, man. They could be sitting in their car or, at home going through something, or at a bar or in church or wherever, and it just speaks to their situation because, like, we're just all going through something different at a different time. And, I've had songs speak to me, the same song speak to me a different way just because I was at a different time in my life and just had different experiences and stuff. So it's a really neat thing, man, music.
Yeah, for sure. What song off of the record Stones do you think that people might be maybe most surprised at or might find the most different from you?
Well, I thought Amplifier, I wasn't even going to put that song on the record at one point.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just really different. And, it's funny, John Cooper actually co-wrote that with me from Skillet.
Nice.
And I just thought it was really, really different. And a lot of people like that song, which is funny. Like, that's definitely one of the top 4 that comes out that people are like, I like that song a lot. And I almost didn't even put it on. Like, I almost didn't even record House of Cards. And I remember playing it for Trevor, and he's like, dude, that's a sick song. You got to cut that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so it's funny as artists, because we're so close to our art, we don't sometimes know what's good or not, or what's going to touch people. And that's what's great to have, like, that's why you just got to put it out there. And I say to other artists, you don't know what to hit. The labels don't know what to hit. It's the fans and the people that are touched by the music that decide.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you feel like your opinion of those songs have changed since you discovered that people like them? I mean, do you still feel kind of some tinge of the same way you did before?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. That's a really good question. It totally changes. Your opinion totally changes. All of a sudden, that's the radio hit, or that's getting played on whatever. And it's amazing. It really does change your perspective once you've once people like love it or hate it, it's like, oh, okay, I love it now. Or oh, I don't think that song's as good, and or like, oh, I knew it was going to be the hit. Like Avalanche is one of my biggest songs, and we had no clue that we thought Fire in the Kitchen was going to be the massive hit, and it wasn't. I don't even think it ended up being a single. We did a music video for it, but it wasn't even a single.
Right. It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, it's wild.
Oh, man. Well, now recently you've been doing some touring that, at least to my knowledge, was a little different for you, because you've been opening up for some kind of bigger mainstream bands in the rock world. How do you feel like that's been a different experience from the kind of touring, at least that I think of you doing in the past, touring with, either headlining yourself or touring with other bigger name Christian artists? Yeah,
it's been great, man. We decided to kind of cross over more into the mainstream, and it's been getting a really good response at radio with the shows, and it's just been awesome. We've been really well received, making new friends, and we're playing in front of people that have never heard of me before, and they're kind of like, where have you been? Like, I don't even know you existed, kind of thing. And it's just awesome. Like, there's this whole other group and culture of people that have never heard of Manafest before, and we're kind of tapping into that, and it's been really cool. It's been really refreshing. It's a different thing. It's allows me to shine light in a dark place, that's for sure. And you definitely got to be called to want to do that, and or otherwise I probably wouldn't do it, because it's spiritually draining.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you had mentioned newer fans coming up and saying, well, where have you been? I'm just now discovering you. How do you answer that question?
I say I'm rock's best kept secret.
There you go. I like it.
You like that?
That's good.
That always gets a good reaction.
That's great. Now, one of the things that I know you've kind of done in the past is you've brought, especially in a live setting, kind of a different twist to some older tracks that you've done in the past, but kind of have revisited. And whether it's a hip hop song that's got more of a rock slant to it now or something like that, I know that is something kind of a reimagining of older material that you've done before. Is that something that you're doing now, or are you more just concentrating on the new stuff at this point?
I'm definitely just concentrating on the new stuff and the rock stuff. We've pretty much taken all hip hop out of the set and only doing rock stuff. And the only thing we might do on this new record is get it remixed. Mm-hmm. Which is going to be kind of different. But yeah, really just focusing again, man. Like, we used to only do like this one song, Bounce and 4-2-2-1, but I've clipped those, and just again, really focusing in on the rock stuff, and people don't seem to mind.
Yeah, for sure. Now, going back to kind of playing for a different group of people, because I know so often, especially in the Christian market, you can start seeing a lot of the same people over and over again. But since you've got pretty much a completely new audience with traveling with Alita's Way and some other mainstream bands, do you find that they tend to gravitate towards any different songs than maybe a Christian audience tends to?
It's been interesting. Like, I always kind of talk about Jesus a little bit from stage, and I do this one song every time you run, mm-hmm. and I share a little bit of my testimony. Right. And I get so many people coming up to me saying thank you for sharing, and like even bouncers and stuff saying, man, thanks, dude, I need a little bit of light in the dark place, man. And I'm just myself either way. It really is seamless to me. And I think people are people, and, kind of God's given me a gift to kind of read people a little bit from the stage and just be honest. And songs just translate either way. Honestly, if I was to perform a song in a church on a Sunday morning, I can definitely say I'd probably select a different one necessarily, but right. At the same time, maybe I just wouldn't perform at church on a Sunday morning, because that's not really my audience. I probably just want to more share my testimony and speak instead. So I kind of like to just perform to where I'll be accepted, because I don't have time to be wasting my time on people that don't get me.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you got a limited amount of time here on Earth, and maybe I guess even a shorter amount of time to be able to to go hard on stage and be able to be a dynamic on stage frontman for a rock band. I mean, that's something that doesn't last forever. I mean, despite the fact that the Rolling Stones appear to never quit, but still, it's one of those things where you've only got a certain amount of time. So I totally get that. Going back to kind of the idea of talking and speaking and helping people, you have done something that I have not seen any other musician due, at least to the level that you seem to have gotten to, and that is that you have kind of been able to share your knowledge of how to make music and make music make money in an age when people seem to be desperately trying to figure out how to make that work again. And you've kind of become almost like kind of a DIY music business guru in some circles. And I mean, we talked when you released the book, which had a lot of kind of, I guess, touched on that a little bit, but how has that been working for you? I know that that's something that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, I've cranked it up a little bit more since I've been home and not touring as much, and I really enjoy it, man. I got a lot of students and artists that I've helped out and just coaching, and kind of have this like mentorship program because, like, you know, I didn't get where I am by not getting any help. You know, I had a lot of people help me, coach me, give me advice. I wish I had someone like me coaching me back in the day, right, to avoid some of the mistakes and pitfalls, and, you know, someone just to say, well, let's look at that contract one more time. Let's just negotiate one more thing. Or have you thought about this? And, you know, I think there's no better time than ever for artists to get involved in the music industry. If you really want it, you know, it's, you don't need a label anymore. And I think it's awesome. And I still think some artists think that you need a major label or you have to be a household name. And there's, you know, artists that people have never even heard of having, you know, a really great living and doing music. And so I just kind of want to help artists avoid those mistakes I made. I don't know everything, but I'm always trying to learn and grow, and I'm very thankful for the career I've had with music. You know, it's been good to me overall.
Nice. What would you say would be the most common mistake, either from your experience or from talking with artists who are kind of trying to figure it out? What would you say is the most common mistake that new musicians or bands tend to make when trying to make money? You know,
I sometimes don't think that they even try. They just put it out and they just think it's going to happen, and they don't plan or have a strategy, and they hide in the studio and make this art and work on it for months or a year, and then they just throw it out there, and they haven't led up to it. They haven't done any teasers about it. Like, look at Hollywood. When they release a movie, they release a little trailer, a little snippet, another trailer, another snippet, and they get this buzz about it, and then they talk about it before it comes out. And I do not know why artists don't, even some signed artists, learn from that and build up an excitement about it. And they just think that once it's done, that the whole world's just going to gravitate. And people don't want polished. They want to see you broken. They want to see you struggle. They want to see the real thing. They don't want to just see this polished art thing. They want to touch and know the person, and I think that's something artists will find. They'll build a much bigger fan base and connection with their fans when they're just more genuine and real, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because heaven knows we've all seen enough examples, especially in the Christian market, of people who have rocked along for a good amount of time, maybe have varied amounts of success, but then it comes out they're not who they claim to be, and then, you know, and then it's you know, for better or for worse, it's over. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it's much better to say, hey, I struggle with this. This is a problem for me, and I'm working on it, rather than to be found out, you know, 10 years later and be like, yeah, this has always been a thing, but, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think people appreciate artists being real, like you said, and being able to relate to them rather than trying to hide something to the point where it's not doing anybody good and it's hurting yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, it was great having you on the show. I know that things are crazy and busy, but dude, I can't wish you any more success than just the highest, and enjoying the new record, and can't wait to hear what comes next, and hope to see you live again sometime soon, man.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate your support over the years, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.